My first heirloom tomatoes of the season were ready to harvest, so I decided to make something special. I went out to my garden and gathered the ingredients to make a vegan tomato puff pastry with basil cream. First, I picked my 6 ripe Bloody Butcher heirloom tomatoes. Then I picked 2 ripe Roma tomatoes. Then I picked a few heirloom black cherry tomatoes. And finally, I picked some parsley, basil, and a lemon for my basil cashew cream. First, I got started on the cream and I began by cutting my lemon in half. Then I added 1 clove of garlic to my blender. Then I added 1 cup of unroasted, unsalted cashews. I added the juice of my whole variegated pink lemon. I added a small handful of basil leaves and a few sprigs of parsley. Then I added a teaspoon of Dijon mustard. I added salt, pepper, a half cup of water, and some olive oil. Finally, blend and set your cream aside. Cut your heirloom tomatoes into slices about 1/2 inch thick. Then have any cherry tomatoes. Once your puff pastry thaws, outline a 1-inch thick border around the edges. Then I dusted the border with almond milk. Next, I topped my puff pastry with the basil cashew cream. Now it's time to artfully place your sliced tomatoes. Then I drizzled my puff pastry with blood orange olive oil. Bake your tomato puff pastry at 400 degrees for 16 to 19 minutes. Then I topped my puff pastry with vegan goat cheese and fresh basil, and I enjoyed the perfect lunch.